Alright, I want to talk about Flashpoint, because Flashpoint is a very hated game mode by a lot of players, but is also the most beloved mode at the absolute highest rank and in pro play, and I want to kind of talk about why that happens. So, like I said, the average player really does hate this game mode. There's multiple reasons for this, but if you ask a lot of people, and if I ask probably most of you watching this, you probably hate this mode and you'd much rather vote for anything else. And anytime I ever mention my enjoyment of Saravasa, New Junk City, and Atlas, I get met very quickly with, backlash and negative opinion towards that map, or if I'm ever negative towards the escort game mode or the hybrid game mode, the exact same thing happens there. Now, we haven't had map votes revealed, like the map vote rates revealed in a long time, but from what I remember last time they did it, Flashpoint was by far the lowest picked mode for players below Masters, while being like the second highest for above Masters, which is very interesting. And there are a couple reasons why I think this has happened. Flashpoint's launch was very different when it first came out, which has now soured the public reception of this mode. It was very different. Release Flashpoint was generally different, and sometimes it's hard to remember the fact that that actually was the case. Most notably were the spawns. We now, if you were to play Flashpoint, have speed rings on the spawn doors, which means you can get back to fights quicker and rotate to different points quicker when you come back from spawn. People used to complain a lot about walking a ton. People used to call the game a walking simulator. But something that was really funny about that is that even at Flashpoint's worst, I'm pretty sure Spilo tested this and timed this, that most escort maps still have a far longer walk back time than the Flashpoint maps, which is quite funny. But now with the speed rings, Flashpoint it's very easy to get back to the fight. It's very quick. Still, it was an issue that people had, and so fair enough. That makes sense. That's a very fair reason. Another thing, I don't know if you remember this as well, is the spawns used to also be really far away from the door. You used to spawn really far back in the spawn room. I still remember this clip being the best way to show it. Like, you can see that the spawn is all the way back there. Like, nowadays you spawn right by the door and you just spawn at the back. Like, yeah. But yeah, like, you can see how insane that was. Anyway. Oh wait, there's more to this clip. So yeah, as you can tell in my clip, that the spawn used to be really, really far away, but now it is a lot better. It is a lot better. And the initial reception of a game mode or a map is so vital. It's the same for characters, maps, game modes. They can all be ruined for a very long time if they aren't immediately loved. It's very hard to undo the negative stigma that the map has garnered. And so that's why all these changes that have been done to Flashpoint still have not changed the general reception on this mode. And then, players speaking these views on this map make people sort of warp their own opinion to it. If it becomes the general consensus, a lot of people just kind of join in and go, okay, yeah, I guess we hate this mode, which is very normal. Another point is that a lot more casual players will enjoy comfort, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I must say, there's, you play games to have fun. And so they would rather play the same or similar things over and over again for that conformity. This is not an insult. This is not something you should take as a mean comment. It's just a very true part of the game that if you are a casual player, which is most of the player base, and if you are trying to relax, you're going to want the simplest, the easier, and the more familiar thing, which is going to a lot of the time be those old payload maps. People genuinely prefer to be comfortable, especially when playing a game. And then, if everyone is unanimous in playing these specific game modes, it's far harder to break the mold. So say you're a casual player, just logging on every now and then to play, and you love Flashpoint. It's going to be very hard for you to really break that mold and play Flashpoint in your games, because everyone else is going to be wanting to not play it. And so then eventually you kind of get swept up into that same mindset. And this is the thing. Map voting has made this even more extreme, because now players aren't forced to play Flashpoint. You used to not have a choice. You used to just get put into whatever game mode. So you could complain as much as you wanted to, but you had to play it. But what would happen is you then don't get exposed to these maps, and so you get bad at these maps, and then you fear ever playing on them and then the cycle continues. I'm telling you, I bet you a lot of players, if we look at gold, are really, really bad at playing a map like Atlas. They don't know how to play it, and it's because they've never been made to play it. And that's a whole map voting issue that is either an issue for some people or is a positive for some. Completely up to you. So, on the flip side, why has Flashpoint become so beloved by a lot of hardcore, high-rank pro players, which is completely the opposite to the casual audience? Now, this is not because these players are smarter. These players are not better than you. They're not, well, I mean, they're better at the game than you, but they're not, you know, they aren't these higher beings that understand something you can't. It's not really to do with that. It's to do with different reasons for enjoying the game, different reasons for playing the game. This game mode has become a beloved staple for these players. Flashpoint allows for a lot of the team comps that pro players want to play to be played. I mean, in the game we are watching literally right now, we are seeing Kiri and Lucio, which the pro players are far too comfortable in playing. People always say, like, oh, why is Kiri and Lucio meta all the time? And it's not even if they're meta, it's actually just because the last 4 years has been Kiri and Lucio. These players are just so used to it, it's easier to play. They are a victim of the conformity and just relying on comfortable team comps. And maps like Flashpoint allow these team comps to be played. They've created an echo chamber as well as the low ranks have made an echo chamber, but the maps that they play are controlled with Flashpoint, which makes them also hate stuff like Escort even more. Now, I personally prefer this. I also prefer Flashpoint to that stuff. I think Flashpoint is generally a more even and balanced game mode for the variety, but I'll get into that just in a bit. But yeah, you can tell that pro players generally like this game mode for all the positive reasons, but also because it has allowed them to do what they like to play a lot better. I mean, think about it, pro players really like Tracer, they like Lucio, like Kiri. These are really, really good characters on this map. So, on these maps. So they kind of have made their own environment where that's what gets played all the time. If you were to throw a lot of these high rank champ players, pro players, into like Nambani or something, they would struggle. Like, obviously they'd still do well, but they would suddenly struggle because they're not used to having to play a map like that. Okay, now to talk at least, not objectively, but try to talk about like my own opinions on the map, because of all the maps, because I genuinely really love Flashpoint, and I do think in my eyes it is probably the most perfect game mode. It's not even my favorite. Like, I'm a big push guy, which is completely different opinion to everything else, right? But Flashpoint is such a perfectly balanced mode with a huge variety of comps being played on it, and the game feels different game to game, which is something that I can't really say the same for some of the other modes. Now, of course, game modes are fair, like they're pretty much balanced because you take turns on sides, all the map is mirrored, but what I mean by balanced is that a lot of the other modes, apart from push, can be very, very snowbally. So Control, for instance, you can get a really strong first fight, then you get ults before them, and then it just sort of dwindles down, and the game mode is so short that it could be that if you are on the losing side, you never got your ults, or you never really got the chance, and you got snowballed. Or on payload, you sort of hold a fight for a very long time on first point, you get snowballed, you get staggered, I mean, like, you die, you get staggered, and then you snowball, and suddenly you've lost third point. Flashpoint tends to avoid that. Obviously, there are times where you might just lose a point really quick, but it's long enough where you can actually build ultimates, unlike Control, while still being able to reward the team with a point if they genuinely dominated on that point. Like, first point, they just did that much better, they are going to get that point. But you do have a slight fighting chance that towards the end of that point capture, or you can sort of hold those ults for the second point and have the advantage into second point, if you see what I mean here. You always have a great chance of coming back. Escort, to me, lacks that comeback, because if you kind of trolled the start of the game, like maybe you rolled out on a team comp that got countered by the enemy team comp, like unbeknownst to you, you did not know that you were being countered, but it just so happened, and so then you've thrown the first point in less than like 30 seconds, which means they have like 6 minutes, 5 minutes to push second point, and they now have ult advantage, so they snowball the second point, and now you have to deal with that massive outcome when you come around to attack. And you could say, yeah, skill issue, whatever, of course. But, you know, there are just so many factors that affect this that it can just be unlucky at the start of a game. If you lose first point in Flashpoint, it sucks, but it's no biggie. you can just win the next 3. You know, you come back in even for the next. The map geometry changes a lot. Like, I mean, watching New Junk City here, this point is vastly different to the first point. There is just so many different, like different angles, lengths. You've got really congested points with really wide points in the same map, which means that your advantage can just change throughout the game mode. I generally really just enjoy the reverse sweep potential of Flashpoint. I think it's really exciting, but you know, that's a slightly gimmicky reason to enjoy the mode. Also, I think the team comps are far more enjoyable. I mean, I prefer stuff like the Lucio, Kiri, Tracer things. Like, I mean, I also just prefer that, and it's more fun on here. My characters are better than, like, compared to the other modes. Like, I play a lot of, like, Brig and Lucio, which are pretty solid here, right, as compared to, like, Escort. And there's no big outliers. You know how on some game modes you've got maps that just really suck, like Havanas and circuits and stuff, where you have to deal with these awfully long sight lines or really gross chokes? Flashpoint avoids that. There's none of that. There's no point where you have to deal with some gross mechanic like a long sideline or a spammy choke. There are just so many options and different ways to approach a point and different places to take a fight that it never feels like the map has a gimmick. There's just more options. Game to game, it can feel very, very different because you will take fights in very different places. So again, Rangers with New Junk City here, as you're rotating here, you might get caught in a fight right where they're stood now. I mean, that's not what's happening, but you might get caught in a fight here, or you might have got caught in a fight way later down the line. Fights happen in different places there. They can happen at a point, they can happen just between points, they can happen like literally just side by side on the point. There's just so many different places for these fights to take place, and each game ends up feeling different because of that, even though it's the same map and even possibly the same heroes. So overall, that's why I really, really enjoy Flashpoint. I think it's one of the most variety-full, that's a word, and one of the most balanced game modes in the entire game. And I hope you get insight into why a lot of high-ranked players and pro players seem to pick this map so much and seem to really want to play these maps. But of course, if you don't like it, that is completely up to you. You might play a different selection of heroes. You might genuinely just have your different reasons, but I just thought I'd give some insight into that. So go give Flashpoint a try. You know, give it a try again. Be open-minded. Don't close yourself off. And just have fun with it. Okay? Don't feel shame for voting the game mode, and then someone types, "Who would vote that?" Like, no one cares. No one cares. It's okay. Enjoy the rest of your day.